Troy from Ace Appliance in Toledo, Ohio. Welcome back to another in-home diagnostic video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Today what we're looking at is a Kenmore gas range. Customer situation is that the oven does not reach temperature. And essentially what we're looking at is I've already been here to diagnose the unit, but when I was here before with the unit plugged in, I set it to bake, turned it on. I noticed that the igniter came on, the unit started to bake, gas came on, good flame, good everything. But within about, say, 3 to 5 minutes of it coming on, it beeped as though it was preheated. And since it was saying it was preheated, I came to the back of the unit, found which wires going to the control board were the oven temp sensor, and I had tested them, and they had said that it was a 350 in the oven. I'd also tested them before I started to make sure they were right around the 1150, 1180 ohms mark to make sure that it was testing fine at ambient temperature. And when I heated it up, it tested it, showed 350, told the control board to turn off. The temperature actually inside the oven with my laser gun was only showing about 150. Same thing at 450, temperature increased a little bit. The temp sensor turned the board off and it was showing that it was at 450 when in actuality it was not. So what we're going to do today is we're going to remove the back panels, we're going to change out the oven temp sensor, and we're going to retest it from there to make sure that it is working. On this unit you have a temp sensor that sends a message up to the board, tells it when it's at temperature and what temperature it is at. So the board knows when to turn the igniter and the gas valve back on to heat the unit and bring it back up to temperature. Alright, the tools that you're going to need for the repair today is you're going to need a multimeter, a temperature probe, and either your drill with a 1/4 inch adapter or a 1/4 inch nut driver. So what we're looking at doing is going to remove this back panel and this back panel. There are 1/4 inch screws all the way around that you just need to remove. Once you remove them, you actually see the temp sensor. The temp sensor goes into the oven, plugs into a plug, which that plug then goes up and feeds the control board. So first I'm going to do is remove all the screws so I can take the panels off. So right back inside here is the temp sensor. It's got one 1/4 inch screw holding it in place, and then it tucks into the side of the unit. So I'm going to remove that screw. With that screw removed, I'll unplug the wire that's going to it. Once it's unplugged, I can feed through. Got to turn the unit so that it'll come out, and then it will slide straight out. Once I've slid it straight out, I can insert the new one back into its hole. I've got it back into its hole, position it, twist it back into place to where it has to be, replace the screw, screws replaced, reconnect the wire, once we're reconnected, at this point in time, the repair is finished. What I'm going to do though, before I put it all back together, is I'm going to plug the unit in, make sure no one gets near the back of the unit because of the power going through the back. I'm going to plug it back in, I'm going to turn it on, I'm going to heat it to 350, and I'm going to check the ambient temperature on the probe. So what I'll do first is grab my meter. On this particular unit, it's the 2 violet wires at the end. You'd have to look at your tech sheet to see which wires it actually is that you would pin to off of your control board. But I'm going to grab my meter so I can test those. So with your meter, your multimeter, you're going to want to set it to an ohms calculation. You want to be able to check what the resistance is through the actual part. So at this point, I'm going to check my 2 violets. Right now my 2 violets are reading about 190, or 1090, I'm sorry. which is right in range with where it should be at room temperature. So with that, I'm going to plug the unit back in. Unit's plugged in. I'm going to come around the front so I can turn it back on. I'm going to turn it back on. I'm going to check for temperature. Okay, so the oven preheated. It beeped like it's at 350. When I check inside the temperature inside the oven, when I'm pointing it in there, I'm getting about 300 or so. Depending on where I point. The reading says it's at 250, but it may not be exactly right. So at this point, I'm going to now retest the oven sensor to make sure it's coming to the right temperature. The temperature probe is reading it right about the appropriate temperature as far as what it's setting at. And what we're going to need to do is the customer at this point in time, I'm going to have them monitor it. Most likely have them pick up a pack of cookies, bring them home, follow directions on baking the cookies, and if they are cooked properly in the time frame, then the issue is solved. If not, unfortunately, there's not really any way to test the control board to make sure it's working. If it does not fix the problem, what to do is replace the control board at that point in time. Thank you for watching another quality video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com.